Hi, so we're here in the Isle of Skye at a place called Sligachan. We've been here for a few days. Quite challenging conditions this morning. It has been raining. There's just a little bit of drizzle in the air and there is some wind. So I've got the board. Fortunately, the scene is over that way and the wind is coming this way. So I'm getting a little bit of moisture on the paper, but not too much. So we'll see how we get on. So this particular scene is great because we have a nice little pathway to lead the eye through the scene. We've got 3 boulders that I really want to make a feature of the painting. They nicely frame the pathway. And then of course, beyond that, we have this wonderful mountain scenery of Skye. I have a piece of black sanded paper called SAIT, S-A-I-T P500, sanded so that it holds the tooth of the pastel really, really well. I'm just going to sketch out the scene to start with a light pastel. I'm going to start with this big boulder in front of me to make sure that I get that in the right position, because it's so important to the whole scene. The pathway, just with a broad stroke, going to map that out. I'm going to let the pathway come round. I can just see a hint of the pathway moving away into the distance, and that'll be quite nice for the painting. So I'm just going to hint that at the moment. Another boulder up here. And the third one. Let's get that in with some nice green moss on the tops. That'll be lovely. And there's some boulders down here as well, which will just finish off the composition nicely. So there's something in the bottom right-hand corner. Let's get the foreground interest here. These lovely russet orangey colours that are throughout the island at the moment. I was just saying, it's like another world here. It's just incredible. The sun came out just a few minutes ago. I'm not sure how long it's going to make an appearance for, but it's really nice at the moment, just coming through the clouds. So we will try and capture that. And then this amazing peak up here that's reaching up into the mists. So that nicely frames the composition of these mountains. Good. So I'm going to start off just by very quickly getting some colour down onto the paper. We'll start off with a light blue. There is a hint of blue, just a hint at the moment in that sky. And then greys and whites for what could almost be described in Scottish as a dreich day, but it's brightening up actually. It's nice. It's going to be nice. And I'm just working the pastel over the colours. Each colour that I put down, I'm working back into it to create a depth. Just going to strengthen that colour, that greyness. And it's working its way into that mountain. Foreboding rain clouds. But that's what gives this place its drama. This and the scenery, of course. And if I do some linear strokes over what I've done, then that will give a sense of rain in the clouds. It's not actually, as I say, raining at the moment, but it's quite nice just to give that kind of indication, that feel. Great, so continuing with the mapping out, let's get these mountain ranges in the background, some really nice darks. This is an indigo that I'm using. One of the wonderful dark ranges that Unison have. and then it reaches up into the mists, this mountain here. And the first hint of oranges and mustard colour in that far-reaching mountain. I'm going to put a little hint of orange in. Just need to be careful not to overdo it with these bright colours. My tendency is always to go to bright, you know, reds and yellows and oranges, which is great, but I think it can be overdone sometimes, particularly on a day like this where the drama is in the mood and the atmosphere of the day that we have at the moment. And making something of basically quite a flat day artistically is a skill that is worth trying to attain. So we're really sort of keeping the drama of the greyness, but just introducing hints of colour, just hints of colour, just to lift the painting. So this wonderful peak over here, and there's a lovely muted green in that far hillside, but let's try and get a hint of that into the painting now. I'm going to put some reddy brown in here just so that it delineates it from that area just behind. And obviously this colour is going to be quite dominant in the picture, just with the relief from the oranges and the grasses in front, and of course these rocks. So there's a nice dark bank. This is the bank of the river that we're that we're not seeing at the moment in this view. My box is full of tiny little pastels that I use to find sharp edges, which is great. But of course, if you're blocking in an area and you've got a tiny little pastel, that wears out very quickly, so it can be a bit frustrating. So here we go, I've got something bigger here. So it's not that easy here, but make sure that you step back every now and again to look at your painting to see how it's coming on, the composition, etc. Good. So the clouds are sitting nicely on this peak. So I'm just going to drag the pastel into the mountain, but I'm going to leave an indication of the top of the peak. I think that'd be quite nice. So it's just, the clouds just resting on the side of the mountain here. We're almost contre-jour in this painting, so the sun is directly in front of us, but it's quite high now because it's late morning. But that is adding to the drama of the situation. So it's putting these mountains in the background, pushing them right the way back, but just beginning to get little hints of colour. There's some reds in there, some oranges, greens of course. But if I just lightly dab the pastel on the paper, then that produces those hints without it sort of jumping out too much. Same over here and over here where the sun is beginning to really catch the mountain. So I'm using a variety of marks here. I'm using both the pastel on its side, but also I'm drawing lines as well. So that creates a vibrancy in the painting, mark making essentially. And I'm just trying to separate the background from this mid-ground here at the moment. So putting some darks here, and then we can brighten up this mid-ground area with a little bit of brighter yellow where the sun is just catching the tops. It's just beginning to drizzle a little bit now. So I might have to resort to my trusty clear view umbrella. Let's see how we get on. So I'm just finding a nice, this is like a aubergine colour really. So it's a dark, but there's an element of red within it, which is working really nicely as a complementary to this green. So I'm using this for the darks of this bank in the background. And I'll also go back into this with a darker indigo. So you'll see I'm using various colors at the same time. I've got my box of pastels that I've been using in this painting. They're getting a bit dirty. In fact, very dirty, because I'm just picking them up with, you know, dirty hands. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. If you've got a better way of doing it, you know, please do. But for me, because I want to be expressive and immediate, I just want to be picking the pastels up, making a mark, putting it down, picking another one up, and marking on the paper. So I just live with the dirt. Just so we know what we're working with, let's indicate these rocks. So this lovely white in the rock here and here. And then these rocks in the background. Where else have we got them? Oh, my foot's stuck in the mud. Oh, there we go. And here. And here. Good. I'm going to use, let's use a purple. I'm going to use this one. This is actually, it's a grey purple, grey 9. It's still got its paper on. I do recommend when you get your new box of Unisons, you might not like to do it, but take the pastel out, take the paper off, break it in two so you can use the pastel on its side. In truth, when I get pastels, new pastels, I do break the pastel in two, but I keep one half of it with the paper on and put that in another box. So the pastel without the paper, that's what I'm using on a day-to-day basis. And when eventually I come to look in my pastel box and find I can't find the right colour of pastel, I look in my other box with my pastels with the paper on, I pick up the one with the paper, take the paper off, make a note of that number, grey 9, and I know that I need to order a new grey 9 pastel. So this is actually a nice colour. It's working quite nicely as a grey for the rock. A lot of times it's hit and miss to get the right colour. If I picked up something different from this and it just wasn't right, I'd just put it back, take up another one, try again, and I'd just keep going, you know, building up layers until I find the right combination or the right single colour for what the effects I'm looking for. So broad strokes just to get the colour down, letting it work into the greens, and that same colour actually comes into the rocks in the pathway. So just dragging the pastel over these areas just gives that sense of colour combinations and the age in the rock, and also of course shadow. The light is quite flat now, but essentially this side of the rocks are in shadow, so we can make something of that. And obviously at the base and in the pathway, just some edges. Right, so I'm just going to work now on a little bit more detail in the middle ground and then the foreground, just giving indications of these, the grasses, the brighter yellows, still trying to keep it reasonably muted though. And then that will work nicely against the darkness of the bank down here. And there's oranges in there as well, again without overdoing it. So I'm just really, really lightly. So it's just leaving hints of pigment. You get this lovely mark making. Which is just going to add interest to the painting. So I'm finding a nice light where the light is catching the tops of the grasses, both in orange and this kind of yellow. And then working around that with a dark. To help those lights stand out. Back in again. So just quick spray in this area, just darken it up and to create more tooth. There we go. And then the rocks while we're here. There we go. So now the pastel will sit better. See that? So just bringing a little bit of purple into this mid ground, same purple that I was using in the background hills again, just to link everything together. And it still works as some of the darks. And we'll bring that down here as well. Just using little short strokes here that gives it an impression of grasses. So we'll work on now the grasses in the foreground. So I've got a dark green here. I'm just going to drag the pastel up the way to indicate the grass. Let it come over the rocks. I say grass, I think it's mostly heather actually. An mixture of heather and grass. Okay. So just try and find the right colour for this orange. I've got a Y14 Unison pastel here, which looks about right. Yeah, just needs another quick spray so that I can get this orange on and let it sit. It's all about not being too precious with it. You know, I could easily, you know, spend my time just indicating each blade of grass, but it would just become a bit chocolate boxy, I think, if I did that, rather than just being loose and quick. I think that's what gives an energy to the painting. So I'm just going to roll this light green pastel over over this rock, and it will just leave random pigment, which will make it look really nice, like the moss sitting, especially against these darks, and then come back into it so it's not too much. Do the same thing with the dark. That all just sits nicely on top of the sanded paper, especially with a little bit of fixative. I think it might be time to just about stop. So this has been pretty quick. It's only an hour and a half really. So we've been really lucky today. It was forecast rain really all day, but we've had about an hour and a half of a bit of wind, just slight little drizzle, but it's been great. The light's been great. Weather's closing in now, as it tends to do on the Isle of Skye. It is Scotland. So we've been painting this for about an hour and a half. and we've got a really good foundation. I mean, it's a nice painting in itself, I think. You really can't go wrong when you've got a scene like this, to be fair. I think this has been a nice session to show you the wonderful opportunities and what you can do with Unison pastels. So we'll leave it there and